Hi there, I'm Emma, a watercolour artist. One of my favourite ways to paint is to paint with no particular plan in mind. I like just letting the watercolour do its own thing. Often, it does things that are much more interesting than I could have thought up by myself. So sometimes I just begin a painting with a feeling, and then I choose colours that feel right for that feeling, and I just play. I wonder what colours you feel like using today. See if there are 2 or 3 colours you particularly feel like choosing right now. Have you chosen? Good. I've chosen red, blue and yellow. And now I'm going to play with these colours and see if a picture starts to emerge. I don't know what that picture is going to be. That's what makes it all so fun and exciting. I'll begin by just painting some strokes onto the paper. Now I feel like working wetter, so I'm going to use my favourite technique, which is called wet in wet. First of all, I make the paper wet. Just using water, I paint a wet shape on a part of the paper. I get some paint on my brush, and I touch the wet paper with the brush. See how it spreads. I could add more colours in there now. What happens if I add 2 or even 3 colours into one wet area? I can explore what happens if I move the paint around a bit. I can pick up my paper and let it run in one direction. The one thing I'm not doing is brushing the paint around, because then I might lose all these lovely effects that are happening. I feel like adding some splatters, or using the wrong end of my paintbrush to make some skinny lines. Finally, I'm going to use a piece of kitchen roll to blot up a few areas, either because they're very wet, or just because I feel like making them lighter. You try it too. Now we need to let the paint dry. That might take a few minutes or half an hour. It depends where you live and whether it's a hot, dry day or a wet, damp day. If you want to speed things up a bit, you could use a hairdryer. Just dry the painting as if you were drying your hair. Hello again, is your painting dry? Good, now we're going to see if any picture is emerging. This is how I make quite a lot of my paintings. I start by just playing and exploring, and then when it's dry, I decide what it is. Try looking at your painting upside down and from different sides. And just see if you start to see anything. Do you see a face, or a person, or an animal, or a monster, or a flower, or a lake, or a castle, or a robot, or something else? If you do see something, you could use some watercolour to pick out what you see. Make sure there's not too much water on your brush, and don't make the paper wet this time. Because you're trying to be more detailed, you need to use the paint more crisply. Use a small brush if you've got one, and see if you can add a few lines or shapes to make clearer to everybody else what it is that you're seeing in the painting. It can also be interesting to ask yourself what's the mood or the atmosphere of this painting. Has it got a stormy feel, or is it peaceful? Does it feel sad or funny? What's the feeling? Maybe if you don't see anything in particular, you could keep your painting abstract. But if, for example, you see a stormy sea, perhaps you could put a little boat in the waves to enhance that sense of storminess.